Hello and welcome back to the Outdated Entertainment Hour. I'm your master of ceremonies, Bob Fobb. None of this MC nonsense. In any event, welcome back to the show. You know, since I've started as staff announcer here, we've received the question many times, how old is Bob Fobb? My answer, none of your f***ing business is how old I am. How dare you ask such a question? In any event, this week's show is all about people even older than I am, the oldest rockers who are still putting on premiere performances well worth your ticket money. I can name a few of them. Actually, I can because I prefer Lithuanian zither music. Until next time, this is Bob Fobb saying, hold on for the latest edition of the Outdated Entertainment Hour. And remember, you in the auditorium, when the lights flicker, head to your seats immediately. I said immediately. Hello, everybody. This is Bob Smith, and this is the Outdated Entertainment Hour. Our guest this week is entertainment writer Joe Puccio. And together we're going to look at aging rock and rollers who still got it. There's a lot of old timers out there, but not all of them have it. These folks do. So we're going to go down a list of people that we've all seen recently that we think are well worth your ticket dollars as the summer shed season approaches. In any event, hunker down. Get yourself a brew or perhaps a tasty snack. We'll be right back in just a second after you will hear from one of the greatest rock and rollers of all time, but I'm not going to tell you who it is because I'm not in the mood. You're just going to have to find out. Then you have to tell me the two of the major bands he was with, or I'm not speaking to you again. I mean, I'd be wounded if you did. I mean, come on.
Hi, everybody. This is Joe Walsh. One thing I do when I'm not playing rock and roll is get on the air as an amateur radio operator. Also called ham radio, is a communication service provided by ordinary people just like you and me. Ham radio operators are everywhere, in your city, your area, your neighborhood, in any country you go to. We have a national emergency communication system in place 24/7, 365. In case of natural or man-made disasters, earthquakes, tornadoes, hurricanes, floods, you name it, we're there. Find out more about amateur radio at arrl.org/whatishamradio. See you on the air.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Outdated Entertainment Hour. I'm Bob Smith. You might remember me from my pro wrestling career with Pro Wrestling Illustrated magazine and its sister publications and a bunch of other magazines. But I was also kind of the ghost editor for Good Times magazine in Long Island, a music newspaper for 17 years. And I also did concert reviews for the Island Era. And I also did some reviews for other upstate New York newspapers. So I've had a long history in the music business, not to mention being a performer myself, appearing on stage with people like, let me just list this. I think you'll be impressed. We have Joe Puccio as our guest, by the way. I should mention Joe Puccio from GenerationXWire.com. Welcome back to the Entertainment Hour. It's been far too long.
Thank you, Bob. Yeah, I'm always up for a good talk for the entertainment world. Nothing against pro wrestling, which I love talking about on a weekly basis. Yeah, it's great to expand our horizons a little bit here. So I'm looking forward to this.
Do you know, as Robert Charles, the blues singer, I stood on stage with B.B. King, John Mayer, Gary Talent from Bruce Springsteen's band, the E Street Band, right?
There you go.
What other famous people I've been on stage with? A lot of blues people, Buddy Guy, Big Jack Johnson, Duke Robillard, of course,
Uh-huh.
who produced one of my albums, and on the list goes. So I feel fortunate that when I do talk about music, have the advantage of being around music. People in my family have been in the music industry as well, as you know. And so I've spent my entire adult lifetime in music once I left Pro Wrestling Illustrated. So I come at you with a unique perspective, and that is why we're looking at now old school rock and rollers and pop stars who are just about as good live today as they were back then when they first started out in the 70s, 80s. Now, the reason we're doing this, summer concert series are upon us. People are going out to the sheds, they're going to smaller venues. Everybody wants to go and see their musical heroes. Well, some of them are still really good. And, I'm not even going to talk about the ones that aren't. I'm just going to talk about the ones who are shockingly good for their age brackets. As we all know, like Willie Nelson's is like 98 or something, or some crazy amount. Joe, you've read that, right? And most of our, 70s rockers are either in their 80s or they're approaching them.
Yeah, it's hard to believe sometimes when you think about it, but I mean, do the math. Yeah, I mean, these guys were around touring in the 70s. We're in 2025. So, I mean, if you just do the math, it makes sense that these guys are going to be in their 70s, or I'm pretty sure we're even going to mention one or two that are in their 80s, which is just mind blowing.
It is mind blowing. And we'll just jump right into this. These are all acts that if you pay your hard earned money, you will not be disappointed. I will stake my professional reputation on that. I think that they all put on fantastic concerts, and a lot of the older artists will surround themselves with younger musicians so that the sound and the band qualities are always top notch. And I'm going to start with a band that we've gone over on the show before, believe it or not. In 2026 comes the reunion of Randy Bachman and Burton Cummings as the Guess Who. As we speak, Cummings is 77 and Bachman is 80. Right? But now dig this. I don't know if you've heard about this next year from February 23rd to February 27th. Their reunion will take place on something called the Rock Legends Cruise. And the website for that is rocklegendscruise.com. Before I talk about the cruise, I'm going to give you the whole lineup. I think you'll be impressed, Joe. But I want to talk. I saw Burton Cummings and Randy Bachman both within the last year, right? Within the last calendar year. They both sound exactly the same as they did way back when. And the Guess Who will be those two augmented by Cummings' band that he uses now, which is one of the best bands on the road. If you haven't seen that, but even the band, I would go see the band without him because they worked without him. They're called the Carpet Frogs. A tremendous band. Everybody listen. I invited 3 people the last time that Cummings came to town, and they all walked away going, "I can't believe how good that show was," because they don't know what to expect. And what they end up for is like a real Saturday night rock and roll show with a lot of driving rock songs one after another. And it's perfect for a Saturday night. So anyway, they're going to be the headliners of this cruise. But think who else is on this cruise. Ready for this? The Gene Simmons Band.
Really?
He's been in the news lately. The Kevin Cronin Band.
REO Speedwagon.
Who recently split. It actually is REO Speedwagon with his name on it. There was a splitting of the ways with one of the other players. I think it was a bass player. So he split off, and it's the same thing, but it's called the Kevin Cronin Band.
Right. There's something legally, I know I read,
right,
that you can't use the name anymore, right?
Now, speaking of veterans, also on this cruise, this is what it's called, Eric Burdon and the Animals.
Ah.
That's the 60s we're talking about.
Yep.
Loverboy will be there. Uriah Heep, which is a shocker to me. I didn't even know there was a Uriah Heep at this point from the 70s. Yeah. Blue Oyster Cult will be there. Long Island Favorites, right? What passes as Jefferson Starship will be there. They just have one original member. I think it's David Freeberg, but the rest of them are replacements. The Atlanta Rhythm section. I haven't heard them on the road in a long time. Willie Nile, who's a great gritty artist from the 80s, and many more artists. You can find out all the information at rocklegendscruise.com. I can tell you it's not as expensive as it sounds like it would be, and it sounds like a stone cold blast. So anyway, I give the new Guess Who my absolute approval. They still got it. It's amazing that they do, but they still have it. Now, that doesn't mean you won't see Bachman on a stool.
Mhm.
because his back starts to hurt. A lot of these people have to sit when they play now. Who cares?
Yeah, right.
Cummings' new album is excellent. He's 77. The beauty part about putting a record every 15 years is everything sounds fresh. You've got 15 years to work on it. You made it because you felt like making it, not because there's some contract that says you have to make it. But that's the first I have on the list. Now, here's other people that I've seen with my own eyes and ears. Judy Collins must have made a deal with the devil. She sounds the same. She still hits all those beautiful soaring notes. Her voice is absolutely as pliable and smooth as it was when she was in her 20s. I recommend her live shows greatly. I really do. She's still got it. It's astounding. Could you believe that? I mean,
And she's still out there regularly?
I saw that she's going to make some appearances very soon. Yes. I don't know how regular she's out there, but she still does make concert appearances. Yes.
Wow, that is
I saw her a
impressive.
few years ago in a duo with Stephen Stills, of all people.
Right.
Now, Stephen Stills is the other end of the spectrum here. Again, I'm here to praise everybody. I think Stephen has reached the point with his bad hearing and other factors and just plain age that he's not quite what he once was.
Mhm.
I just saw some videos with him and Neil Young from last year, and I was, let's just say, I'm glad I got to see him years ago. And I'm not putting him down. And there's still going to be some people that want to come out and see these people, no matter how old they are, what it sounds like. But as someone who knew what a fiery entertainers these guys were when they were younger, it's just you just reach a side where I'll just put it this way: they've slowed down.
Yeah.
They've slowed down, but they have to. They're older now. And I'm not putting them down, but there's other people from their era. Richie Furay, who used to be with Poco, the leader of Poco, solo artist all these years later, still sounds like Richie Furay, as does Chris Hillman, one of the original members of the Bird, and you can still see him perform. James Taylor, I don't know how he does it. His voice is aged, right? But it's still good. It's still, there's some singers' constructs that older singers used to hit the notes they hit when they were 19, the type of thing. And he hits them all and he sounds just wonderful. And the bands are always amazing. Since Joe has the word Mick in his studio box here, he's calling himself Mick today. I got to give props to the Rolling Stones for about 5 different reasons because, they still put on a whale of a concert. I have yet to hear of the person who went and saw a Stones concert and meh, they're still the Stones. Have you had an opportunity to see them in recent years?
Absolutely, I have. So the Stones are one of my. I mean, I know it's a cliche to say this, but the Stones and one or two other bands are in my top 2 or 3 bands of all time. I've seen them several times now. First time I saw them was in the early 90s. I saw them, I want to say a couple years ago during their last tour, and phenomenal. If I have even a fraction of the energy that Mick Jagger has when I'm his age, I would be happy because we're not, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this guy is running around and the size of their stages. I mean, you're not talking about a tiny stage where he's got to go a couple of feet. I'm talking along the entire ramp. I'm talking dancing, shimmying, jumping up and down. It's just nonstop for that 90 minutes or whatever it is that they play. It's almost like he really did make a deal with the devil because this guy just, it can't possibly be true that he's still doing this at his age. And he is. And vocally, he still sounds good. I mean, look, I'm not going to lie and say his voice is perfect at this point because, it's just not. But he is adequate enough where there's never a point in a Stones concert, even nowadays, where you listen and you say to yourself, he's not that, I wish it could have been better. You just don't do it because it just doesn't happen. Does he have backup singers? Sure. They've always had their backups, but it doesn't hurt it at all. He still sounds great as well.
Well, that's the funny thing about there's some rock singers who aren't technically great singers, but they're great rock singers. And Mick's
Right.
one of those. You know what I mean? They're
Yes.
not a soaring, multi-octave, smooth delivery.
Absolutely.
It's like, I put Eric Burden in that category
Yeah.
too. They're not technically wonderful singers. They're rockers. There's a difference.
Right.
And that's why they still hold up after all these years because, well, they Mick has never sung a real flower. He's sung a couple love songs, but I wouldn't say they were flowery love songs with full of
Mhm.
soaring harmonies and things. No, he is what he is. He's a singular force. And what I love about all three surviving Stones, you hear them interviewed these days, they seem like the most well-adjusted, happy men on the planet.
Yeah.
Don't they? Is
Well,
Jagger a guy you'd love to meet and just say, "Hey, man," because you know what? He would respond in a kind way. I guarantee you.
yeah. And look at Keith. I mean, let's not sleep on him and he's still such a good guitarist, whether it's lead or rhythm, whatever he's playing on that song. And it's funny, this just sort of like jogged my memory too, that you mentioned Jagger doesn't have a pure, beautiful voice. He's got a great rock star voice. Look at Richards. I mean, that guy does a song or two on each tour. He does a song or two on each album, and nobody's going to say that Richards has a great voice, but he makes it work. I mean, like you hear, if you heard Jagger singing on the street, you didn't know who this guy was, you'd be like, oh, what the hell? But everything about it, just is playing with that rough, raspy, sound that he has. It's great. I love, sometimes I prefer hearing the Jagger song on the new album than hearing the Richards song than some of the Jagger songs on their later albums. So I'm a huge fan of him as well. He's got such a great style about him, even when he sings his vocals.
Yeah, but it's that rhythm guitar, man. That rhythm guitar that has foisted 40 hits on the world. It's like his singular. Just you can't describe it. Just that chunky rhythm that he lays down on all those hits. It's fantastic. I just did the previous show that I did was about underrated guitarists. I had Tom Johnson in there of the Doobie Brothers. Not so much that he's the most spectacular lead player because he's not. It's those rhythms. You think
Mhm.
of China Grove and listen to the music, it's always that chunk of rhythm and that starts the song, and he was responsible for all that. So in a way, he's the sound of the '70s, that guy, because he was just you know what I'm saying? All their hits, China Grove, all of them, listen to the music, they all have that thing that I can't sing it, obviously, and I can't play it because 'cause I'm not holding the guitar, but those rhythm patterns made the song. Like, at the beginning of China Grove, the first thing you hear is the guitar.
Mhm. Yeah.
And if it wasn't a rhythm that hooked you, you wouldn't listen to the rest of the song. But it is a rhythm that hooks you right through the end. So
You
I
know,
gotta
I
give rhythm guitar is a very, very underrated aspect of rock and roll music.
Oh, absolutely, it is. And I'll stay on the topic of the Doobies. Look, Michael McDonald. It's funny because he gets a little crap sometimes on his voice. Like, I think it's easy to sort of imitate him and sort of poke fun at him at his voice, but he has got such a distinctive, soulful
Oh,
tone
yeah.
and voice, and he's always been one of my favorites since I first heard him. Whether it's the Doobie Brothers single, you remember he was also in Steely Dan for a while. He was a backing vocalist for them, but yeah, I would definitely want to give a shout out to him because he's a guy that he's in his, I want to say, mid 70s now, and he's still out there. He's out there with the Doobies. In fact, they're in the middle of a tour right now, I believe.
Right. Mhm.
And I will say I have unfortunately never had a chance to see the Doobies live myself. I've always wanted to go, and for whatever reason, I just never have. But I would love to. And from what I've seen, they sound great on video, and I'm talking recently.
Well, I saw them live at, I think, one of the last Greg Allman package tours that he used to do,
Mhm,
that used to go into Jones Beach,
mhm.
amphitheater in Long Island, and they were awesome. They weren't just good. They were on this list too. They're as good as they used to be.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that incarnation of it didn't have McDonald in it. I can't imagine what it's like now.
right, right, right.
So get out there and see them. They're doing a tour right now, like he said, and I believe, Joe, you can still catch them this summer if you're careful. I think they're coming to that same
I
Jones
believe
Beach
so. Jones
amphitheater.
Beach. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so you may want to look into that because it's like I give them an A plus. They were excellent, excellent. We were going, oh, we're gonna have to sit through this to get to Greg Allman because they were like the next to last, and we ended
mhm,
up enjoying it as much as Greg Allman's. They're good. They're real good. Yeah.
absolutely.
And here's some others who are of older bent. We'll just these are in no chronological age order, but Sting still sounds like Sting. right? If you heard him in his older age, he still
sounds
sings.
good. Yep, yep.
Let's go up to the 80s. Alanis Morissette.
Hmm.
I saw her perform at the benefit concert for the fires in Los Angeles area that they put on with about 40 music acts were on that. And she came out and she was still Alanis Morissette. She looked the same, sounded the same, walking the length of the stage back and forth. She performed with confidence and she still sounds like Alanis Morissette. Exactly the same performer she always was. So I'm impressed because I expected, well, what's she going to be doing at this point? No, she was still funky, hippie like Alanis Morissette. It was really cool. So I really enjoyed her set. And speaking of older timers, in a nice mix, Ringo and his
Yeah, yeah.
all-star band is worth seeing. Now, the All-Stars aren't the type of All-Stars they used to be. Ringo used to go out with a bunch of A-listers all the time, but he has settled upon a group of musicians now that includes like Steve Lukather from Toto and Greg Bissonette and some others that aren't exactly A-listers, but as a band, they're killer. Colin Hay from Men at Work is in it. There's some others that have some. One of the guys from the Average White Band, I believe, is still in it. I say go. I have never been let down by a Ringo Starr and All-Star Band tour show. I've seen like 5 different incarnations. They've all been good. And I saw a video of this particular band. And I said, that was way better than it had any right to be. And it was. They had Edgar Winter at that point. I'm not sure if he's on this year's tour, but they're still floating around. Ringo and the All-Stars. You might want to give it a shot.
I didn't know that Colin Hay was part of that. It's funny you bring him up. Have you ever seen a Colin Hay show, like one of his solo shows?
No, I haven't. And he was playing around our area that we're speaking from a lot for years. So have you? You've obviously seen one.
No, that's why I'm asking. I have never gone, but it was highly recommended to me from my by my sister and my brother-in-law. They've gone several times. He does these shows where they're sort of like half songs, and he does a lot of stories, almost like one of those old storyteller shows that they used to be on VH1. But they both said that whether or not you're a huge fan of his music, you just want to hear it. He sounds great, they said, and he's got really, really great, engaging stories. So it's great that you bring him up. You know, I've always admired him as well. I've only heard good things about that all-star band and those shows that he puts on. I heard that he puts on a great show. And speaking of Ringo, I mean, how can you leave out McCartney?
I can leave him out.
Well, I mean,
I don't agree. I don't agree with you on in the fact that he has held up as well. I don't believe that he has. That's why he didn't make the list.
See, now I have not seen Paul.
I have.
But I can just go off of the videos and the stuff that I've seen. And I don't know, you say, to me, he still sounds good. You're saying otherwise?
I just think the voice is haggard now. It's like he's struggling to hit notes at this point. And which is fine because you know what? Again, these veteran musicians surround themselves with fantastic bands. And the material is the same, and they are in charge of producing that material for a live audience. So it's still the artist, even if they've slowed down a step. Would I say don't go see Paul McCartney? No. I just think he has slowed down a half a step.
And am I
But
wrong?
why shouldn't he have slowed down? Look at his age, right?
He does pretty long shows still, right?
Yes, he does. Last I saw, he was still doing stadiums and whatnot.
Yeah.
But that was a few years ago at this point. Be interesting to see if he comes back. I would be interested to see if he does some full-scale shows again.
Now, how about Elton John? Because I've seen Elton, not in the last couple of years, but I saw him not too long ago. And it's funny because he comes out and you might not know what you're going to get because he looks a little old and he kind of is sort of wobbling around there a little bit on the stage. But then he sits down at the piano and he starts singing and he starts playing. And I thought he sounded pretty damn good.
Well, he was just on SNL with Brandy Carlisle doing 2 songs. I don't understand that pairing, but they're performing together. I don't know if they're taking it on the road, but I think they made a record together or something, or an album. I don't know. I'm not even sure. I thought he sounded acceptable. Yeah. I think, again, he's lost a step, but you got to lose a step when you reach a certain age. You just have to.
Right.
However, his piano playing was off the scale. Yeah. He's a great pianist. People don't even talk about his piano acuity. He's a really great keyboard player.
Yeah. Electric. Yeah, for sure.
So maybe those two will go out. They sounded good together. Again, they were on Saturday Night Live, one of the last editions for this year. Who else
Yeah.
we got on the list here, kids? John Hyatt, who is kind of a bubbling under the radar star, but he's also been performing for 35 years. He still sounds like he did when he started making solo albums in the late 70s. Edgar Winter, I give props to. I have never heard him sound like anything but Edgar Winter, who Rick Derringer just died. And if we all know, Rick was a big part of many of the Edgar Winter touring bands throughout the years, including Roadwork and a couple of the others. Edgar Winter's white trash, too, I should say. So, no, and by the way, R.I.P. Rick Derringer did a lot of wrestling work. You know, if we're going to segue into that, he was the genius behind the first wrestling album and
Yep.
created many of those songs on that record. So rest in peace, Rick Derringer. He did a hell of a job, man. And I love Edgar Winter's Roadwork album. Oh, sweaty, balls to the wall, R&B style rock and roll, sung at breakneck speed, played even faster. If you've never heard Roadwork, it is awesome, man. Try to hear that one. Edgar Winter's Roadwork. But Edgar's still out there from time to time. Steve Miller, I think, sounds good.
Agreed on that.
And Hart has reformed, and I have never seen them bad. Ann can still sing. Nancy can still play. I don't know who the rest of the band is, but I'd have to give them a thumbs up because what they do is authentic. They're doing their own work, and I would give them a thumbs up.
I will say Nancy, her playing was really good. I was actually a little surprised. I felt I was a little underwhelmed by Anne, and I was surprised. I had seen her recent video of her, and she did sound good. But I will say, I don't know, maybe it was just an off night. Missing some notes. She just sounded like maybe it was an off night. She really didn't have it that night. But overall, I think they're still doing fairly well. Yeah.
I put everything with a caveat here because, these people are older now. Their voices are going to crack on some things, and they're going to have to struggle to reach other notes, or they will re-sing it. Cummings does this on Undone. It's been too late, that part. He had to sing it down an octave.
Uh-huh.
He would just keep it at, it's been too late. He just repeated the original because he's almost 80 years old. It makes sense.
Uh-huh.
If you're going to hit a bunch of high notes that you sang when you were originally literally 19 years old at the age of 77, you're not going to hit all of them. It's just all there is to it. So there are ways singers get around the hard parts if you're a good singer. I think that Anne probably smart enough to know how to cop for some parts that are. That's the problem. All the rockers write those vocal gymnastics when they're 20, right? And now they have to come out at their age 60 or 70 and do it again. You get props for just trying it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, a lot of them have, said on interviews in their later years, like, man, what was I thinking writing those songs when I was young? I never realized that I'd have to be belting them out, 40 years later. Another couple of guys that I saw tour together last year, both did impeccable jobs. Jason Scheff, who was the front man for Chicago for several years in the 80s, and he toured with Tommy DiCarlo, who was the singer for Boston for many years after Brad Delp had passed away. But both of them sounded awesome. I mean, they both hit all the notes. They both, the range was great. Really, really good show.
I read about that one. I was a little surprised to see the matchup. I think they're touring as we speak. I think I read about that.
Yeah.
All right, now I want to talk about something that you would never expect me to go to, but I went out of curiosity. A few years ago, I went to the Happy Together tour. It used to be the Turtles were always the headliner, and they still are. So a few years ago, I go and see this thing, right? Just out of curiosity, and somebody in my family loves the Turtles, so we went. But it was still the Turtles then. It was Flo and Eddie, the two guys that were the singers. Unfortunately, when you go see the Turtles now, it's Mark Volman, and Ron Dante, who used to be the Archies. That ain't the Turtles. They can call it the Turtles, and they may sing Turtle songs, but to call them the Turtles is really a stretch. I just, I was a little disappointed with that, put it that way. You also saw Chuck Negron, was it from Three Dog Night, who I think has seen better days. You see, but I'm not here to blast the ones that I thought were at the end of the road. I'm here because I am going to give an unbelievable, not like me, giant plaudit to a band I never liked when they were around when I was a kid, the Cowsills. I'm not making this up. They started to sing "The Rain in the Park" and other things, right? And I fell out of my chair. Some of the most beautiful vocals I've ever heard in any band. I am serious. I
Well,
didn't even know they had it in them. The 3 Cowsills that are still around fronted that act, and I was blown away. Absolutely blown away. They are worth the price of admission to the entire concert series that comes around every year, the Happy
wow.
Together tours. They're that good. They're not fair, they're not decent. They were magic. I'd never heard anything like it. You know, Brian Wilson just died as we record this, and what a great vocal arranger he was. I'm listening to these now older people sing their harmonies,
Uh-huh.
and they were off the charts. The Cowsills, I never thought I'd say this.
That's interesting. Yeah, I didn't expect the Cowsills to make this list, but
I never I'm not I was a rocker. I would never buy
yeah.
Cowsills, but I heard them play live, and I was knocked out. And I was also knocked out. I was never a fan of the Monkees.
Mm.
If he comes your way, go see Mickey Dolenz.
Hmm.
The most amiable, fun show you will ever see. He can still pull off the songs he used to do. The crowds are always into it because let's face it, he's basically the last Monkey now, I guess.
I guess so. And he
If you
still
don't see
sounds
him,
good.
and he sounded fine. Again, surrounded by a superb band, absolutely superb band. And it's not a ripple. It's not a cash grab. They're trying to be good. They're trying to be as professional as possible, and it showed. So I got to give a tip of the cap to Mickey Dolenz. I'm serious. I never bought a Monkees record in my life. I would go see him in a minute.
I've never had a Monkees record as well that I wasn't a fan of those. I can't say I'm a hardcore fan, but yeah, I like them. When if I hear them on the radio, I'll leave them on.
Yeah.
But that's cool. That's cool. That's good to hear that.
I
That
mean,
he's still,
it's this type of thing where you see somebody and you're like, you don't know what you're just kind of there or they're part of a package or something, and you go, "Oh, I'll sit through this," and then you're delighted. That's the nicest feeling in the world because you're expecting nothing and getting a lot.
yeah,
That's what makes music the magic that it is. And again, it's more than that. It's the vibe of the performer. If they're effervescent, if they're really working on stage to try to entertain you, it will work. It doesn't matter what kind of music you're into. Dude, I was in a mall. I'll just tell the story. I was in a mall. We're walking around the mall. It's Roosevelt Field in Long Island, and there's a small group of old guys playing a polka, and we stop, and we're listening. They had it. They meant what they were doing. That's the definition of soul as a musician. They're feeling it from the inside and playing so everyone else can enjoy it. And at the end of the song, we stood there and we both put our hands together and clapped. And one guy looked up and he said, "Wow, I didn't think anybody was listening to us."
right.
I said, "Play again, play some more." And they played some more and we did it again. Because you know what? It doesn't matter if it's polkas or jazz
Yeah.
or kids playing the flutophone in their school. If they mean it, if they're working it, that's the definition of soul when it comes to music. I think that's my definition of soul. When you feel it from the heart and it comes out of you and goes out into the air, that's soul. And it doesn't matter what the style is. It could be anything, gospel music. I don't care. If you mean it, people will be affected by it.
Yeah.
If you see the five blind boys from Alabama, the vocal group from down south, from obviously Alabama,
No.
they rock the house like nobody else.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a rocking band. It is absolutely a rocking experience seeing the blind boys from Alabama. Awesome. There's another one I recommend if they ever come around. They do periodically. You see what I'm saying though? It doesn't matter the style of music. If they're good at it, shoot. I went to New Orleans once and I was sitting there eating a po' boy, and a band came out on stage with with a washboard, and they're going to play Zydeco, and it was fantastic.
Right.
It was better than bands I played to see, and they're playing for a tip cup. So I don't know what to say other than you never know when something's going to knock your socks off.
And let me just give a shout out to a couple of guys that, in speaking about, you never know the type of music or maybe a genre of music that doesn't necessarily get applauded for their vocals, but heavy metal. So I'm just, I'm just kind of thinking off the cuff here about a couple of guys, one in a band that I'm a big fan of, one I was never a big fan. So Rob Halford, who lead singer of Judas Priest, Judas Priest, one of the most popular heavy metal bands of all time. I can't say I was ever, and I love metal, but for whatever reason, Priest, I was never a huge fan of. I like them well enough, but never to like buy all their albums. But I will say Halford is, I want to say about 73, 74, 75, something like that now. And I've seen, if you watch any footage of him, and I'm talking recent footage, that guy still has it. And for that type of music and that type of high pitch sort of screaming, he's got some nice melody on him, melodic vocals. So I know you're not a huge, metal guy with a lot of these bands, but I will say Halford, I would definitely give a shout out to. And again, it's not just because I'm biased for the music. I'm not a big Priest fan, but he still really got it. The other guy I want to point out is Sebastian Bach, who for many years was the lead singer of Skid Row, one of my top 3 or 4 vocalists of all time. And, again, I'll say that top vocalist of all time. He's got such great range. I've seen them so many times live. I've seen him. He was on Broadway for a while. He was in the lead of Jekyll and Hyde. And let me tell you that this guy brought the house down with how good he was. And there's a big difference between singing with heavy metal in the background, where you got the screeching guitars in the back, as opposed to being on a Broadway stage singing with no music. And this guy brought it. And I was with my wife and she felt the same way. Just fantastic. And he still sounds great. I've seen him a few years ago and he's still got it. So that's a couple of guys I would certainly give a shout out to. Again, I mean, heavy metal, not the most respected genre of music in that sense. But you'd be surprised. You find a lot of these guys, especially the guys that came out in the 80s, the early 80s. A lot of these guys are classically trained. A lot of these guys have really, really great vocals, and a lot of them are still doing it today.
There you go. And, let's not forget R&B too, or soul
Yeah.
music, or whatever you want to call it. Every year, Darlene Love comes around for Christmas. Go. She sounds every bit as good as she ever has. She's fantastic. Darlene Love is great. And Mavis Staples, when she makes an infrequent appearance, if she sings, she'll still knock your socks off. Amazing. Stevie Wonder.
Oh,
His
yeah.
infrequent appearances, when he sits down to sing, he's still Stevie Wonder. I just wonder why he doesn't work more often. Because you know what? It's brilliant songwriter. I mean, and there's a lot of others that are worth seeing. I have seen the package tour of the Four Tops and the Temptations. I will say that they are not the original acts. They couldn't be. Too many people have died in the interim, and I think there's literally one original member in each group. But
Mhm.
what they present is very good. It's very good. And I think the fans know that going in.
Mhm.
There's been a lot of people claiming to be Temptations running around with fake Temptations bands and what. And again, this is why these musicians are suing each other all the time, because of things like that happening.
Yeah.
But I think that the acts that roll around as the Four Tops and Temptations are worth your dollar, and you will have great memories. Another concert, there are other. We're living in an area here, Joe and I, that cover bands and tribute acts are very big. Now, I wouldn't pay 30 cents to see a cover band in a bar that just does somebody else's music. It's just not my thing. But there are a couple of larger package tours that go around. Like there's some 80s music tours that run around. I've seen them booked at small venues here in Long Island. Well, they'll have like Taylor Dane along with acts of that era of, that type of R&B sound type of thing going on, and like 7 or 8 different acts. Those are always the real artists,
Mhm.
backed by an orchestra or a band. Nothing wrong with that at all.
Right.
So I recommend those shows too, because it's the real thing. It's the real thing. It's like, it's not like a name on a poster that's not really the real thing. And if it's not the whole band, it will say it's not the whole band. It will say Joe Beans, the original release singer for the Delphonics, whatever it is, it's truth in advertising. So I recommend those tours too. And the reason, that we're doing the show is, if you're listening to a show called The Outdated Entertainment Hour, you like older stuff. And it's getting harder and harder these days to find your favorite artists as you grow older. And I think it's a blessing that we get an opportunity to go see the stuff you listened to when you were 10 years old. Think about that. I could still go out and see artists I listened to when I was 10 years old, and I'm older than Tide detergent. So I find this to be very heartening and a lot of fun. And when a legendary artist comes around that you haven't seen in a while, go see him. Boz Scaggs is going to perform in New York in the fall.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Boz Scaggs. I can tell you right now, Boz Scaggs is still Boz Scaggs.
Yeah.
Still
Yeah.
sounds the same. Well, he was always like a mild mannered performer, and I'm not putting him down for that. He just sings and plays, and he still sounds the same. Hasn't changed a bit. It can, everybody loved those '80s hits. My gosh, what Lido Shuffle and
Oh, love that song.
that whole array of hits that he had, JoJo and all that other stuff. He,
Yeah.
he had his bunch of hits there, and Lowdown, of course.
Yep, of course.
Lowdown was the biggest hit of all of them, and he'll still perform those songs. So
You-
he's coming on tour this fall. You might want to check out for that too, and it never ends. And that's the beauty part. There are some art, and again, I'm trying to separate the wheat from the chaff in terms of quality here to keep you away from acts that have. There's a rock band from Australia that tours that has no original members. Zero. Why? Why would you go?
well,
There are
you know,
some of the country rock bands are running around with very few original members. Just because the name is there doesn't mean it's going to live up to you. And I did see one famous '70s R&B band, who I will not name. Again, I'm upbeat. I don't want to bash anybody here. During a package tour in Long Island, and they were not even remotely close to either sounding like they used to. It's the only band I've ever seen that played 3 songs in a set and left the stage.
Huh.
Played the 3 hits and left. Never saw that before. I don't know what that was all about. And if anybody out there knows of some bands that are older or artists, just solo artists that are still out there kicking it, let us know. We'll give them their props too, because these type of shows are meant to debate a little bit. Who did we leave off this list? Can you think, Joe, of anybody you would like to give your props to right now?
yeah, I have a couple more that, as we've been talking, that I've just sort of been coming to mind. Always a big Dire Straits fan. Mark Knopfler is still out there, from what I understand. He's
Is
another
he?
guy.
Well,
I believe so.
here's why I have to question that is because my better half is a gigantic Mark Knopfler fan,
Okay.
and we haven't seen him around in a long, long, long time.
I don't think he tours regularly, but I believe, you have to be, every couple years. I think he's still out there. I think he's like 75, 76, so he's in that range, but he's always been, I mean, what a powerhouse guitarist he is. And he's got a lot of different styles, pretty eclectic, but I've always been a big fan of his. I think you got to put him as one of the all-time guitar greats. He's kind of underrated. He falls under the radar a little bit, but always been a big fan of his.
You just reminded me of someone as you said that. I'll just give him his props too when he comes around, and I saw him a few years ago too. Steve Winwood is still Steve Winwood.
Yeah.
He looks the same and sounds the same.
Yeah.
He
I've
hasn't
always
changed
liked-
a bit, not a tiny bit. So if you're into his thing, he is worth seeing.
And what about, I'm going to name 2 guys that you might not think of offhand. Everybody thinks about one of the greats of all time, greatest vocalist of all time, the late Freddie Mercury. But you want to know something? Brian May and Roger Taylor of Queen, they still are great. I know they're out there with
Adam Lambert.
Adam Lambert. There you go. I know he goes out there, and obviously everybody. And hey, look, I'll admit I'm one of them. I'm such a big Freddie Mercury fan, such a big Queen fan, that I have made it a point to never go see that incarnation of the group, just because to me it's just I don't know. I can't get past that. But I will say, anytime you see these guys, they are still out there. They are still shredding. They still sound great, whether it's drums, guitar. May or Roger Taylor are both still really, really good performers. They're up there as well.
Time is fleeting, no matter who you are or how old you are, even if you're young. And sometimes some of your favorite stuff kind of vaporizes. And let's get out there and enjoy this music while there's not a pandemic, first of all.
Yep.
Secondly, I mean, let's get some memories. There is nothing more fun than being surrounded by people of a like mind, enjoying a concert of one of your favorite artists from your youth. It works. Like I said, I invited a few people to see a classic rock concert a couple months ago, and they all walked away walking on little clouds because they had such a good time. Takes you away from your troubles. That's what entertainment is supposed to be, and it's especially what music's supposed to be. Whether it's blues, rock, jazz, no matter what the format is, Music is the spice of life, play on. So I don't know what to say. I think that's a Edith Prickly quote. I'm from SCTV. I'm not sure. I just it's summer shed season, and I'm in the mood this year. I will put it that way. I want to see some music this time out. I really do. You have any plans to see some shows or no?
Yeah, it's funny. I usually by this point, in June or we're in the middle of the year already, and at this point, I usually do have at least one or two Jones Beach shows scheduled, and as of right now, I do not. The one show that I am certainly contemplating to call back to what we were just saying a few minutes ago is the Doobie Brothers, because again, I know that they are doing a Jones Beach show. I want to say August, not sure. I'd have to look it up, but whenever it is, that's one I'm definitely thinking about. There actually was a show just recently at Jones that I missed that I wouldn't have minded seeing. A little not as old as the Doobies, but Simple Minds, the band from the '80s. They had their big song was "Don't You Forget About Me," the Breakfast Club song.
My record store days, man. Those were when I was wearing a tie, working for Record World, selling cassettes, my friend. Yeah,
Exactly. And I make no mistake about it. As much of a rock, classic rock, heavy metal guy I am, I love 80s pop. I love 80s new wave. And I like that band a lot. They actually played with a couple of Soft Cell and Modern English as a blast from the past. Certainly on the lookout for any shows over the next few months.
I am a little remiss in that I only have one pair of concert tickets in my drawer right now, and believe it or not, they are hard tickets. And in August, I'm going to see Jimmy Vaughn,
Oh,
from the
okay.
Fabulous Thunderbirds, and
Yeah.
Steve Ray Vaughan's brother. Yeah, so I'm seeing him mainly because in the '80s, as you were in the new wave, I was into T-Birds and Steve Ray Vaughan.
Uh-huh.
They both grabbed me right by the poo-poo, man. I just really, really got into both of those bands. And I even covered a T-Bird song on one of my own records a few years later. So there's another guy, Jimmy Vaughn. He's the blues rhythm guitar. What Keith Richards is the rock rhythm guitar,
Okay.
or Tom Johnson is the rock rhythm guitar. He can propel a band with that dun 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 dun. Some guys just have it for that stuff, and nobody better at it than Jimmy Vaughn. He's a genuinely nice guy too. I've met him on several occasions and really enjoyed making conversation with him. And I thought the T-Birds were a terrific live act back when, and there is still a Fabulous Thunderbirds, but it's consisted now of Kim Wilson, the lead singer, and artists you may have never heard of backing him up. So, but in any event, again, Kim Wilson puts on a great show too. There's another one. If you like the T-Birds, Kim Wilson still does the T-Bird stuff. If you want to go see him, he's good. Amazing. Have you ever heard him play harp? Oh my God. Now, I had harp players in a couple variations in my band, but I wouldn't say that harp is my favorite thing in blues. Like I can take it or leave it sometimes. Sometimes it's a cliche sometimes.
Mhm.
Not with this guy. This guy goes into a solo on one of his songs that probably lasts 9 minutes and not a breath is wasted. It's phenomenal. No, I mean it. It's like
Very cool.
he's like the Hendrix of harp. No, I mean it. He does a solo that you would never hear the likes of before or since. He's Kim Wilson on the harp. Please, folks, check him out. Just astounding, man. Off the
I
chart.
love that. The Hendrix of harp.
The Hendrix of harp. It wasn't bad, was it?
Yeah.
But no, I meant because that's from the heart. He
Yeah.
plays the solo, and whole audience is just agog. I saw him at a jazz festival get a standing ovation for it, at a jazz festival.
Wow.
Place went nuts playing this solo. It's on one particular song. I can't remember what song he plays, but Kim Wilson on the harp, please, any day. That and the po' boy, and I'm a happy, happy kid. I'm telling you right now. So anyway, it's our friend Mr. Joe Puccio doing his usual stellar job on one of my podcasts, and I really appreciate it. And tell him a little bit about your website, the generationxwire.com, an eclectic and fun stop in your interwebs journey, so to speak.
Sure. Thank you. So, generationxwire.com, anything and everything from the great Generation X time period. We did a story on Bono recently. We did a look back at the Naked Gun. We did a Gene Hackman retrospective recently. We're going to be doing that from time to time, looking at his movies every couple of months. The last one we just did was Get Shorty, and then in the next few months we have a lot of interesting things coming out. We're going to be doing a review of Jaws, which is celebrating its 50th anniversary. We're going to be looking back at Metallica's Load album because of that reissue that they just put out. And even more timely, we're working on a story on Brian Wilson. A lot on the agenda, and we're always looking for something. We're always looking for something new, and maybe even a couple of surprises that I'm working on right now.
That's great. Let me ask you something a little bit off topic, and this is off topic about our topic this time, but I want to ask you this. It was announced this week, as we sit here talking, that Mel Brooks, who is 99 years old, is going to be releasing a sequel to Spaceballs in 2027, which will make him 101 years old if and when this thing comes out. And they apparently have already signed Bill Pullman and Rick Moranis, who were original cast, to be part of this.
Wow.
My question is this a good idea? Everybody loves Spaceballs. That's not the question here. The question is, everybody's like 35 years older now. Is this going to work?
Probably. I mean, honestly, probably not. I mean, I don't know. Do you really think it's going to work? I don't know. What do you think? You think it's going to be a success? I mean, it might be successful. I mean, who knows? There's enough people that want to see it that it'll make some money. Whether or not it's going to be any good, that's a different story.
If Mel is smart enough to surround himself with comedy professionals around him and has an assistant director to speed up his pacing, if you saw some of Mel's comedy films late in his, like the Dracula Dead and Loving It period, the pacing started to falter because he was getting older. I thought even some of the other ones, like the Robin Hood Men in Tight, the pacing was getting not as crisp as he used to be during his real classics, for everything from Blazing Saddles through, let's say, History of the World, that period. So I think that if he surrounds himself with enough people and acts as kind of like a sophisticated porting device rather than like running the whole thing, I think he's got a shot. And here's why. To this day, if you ask Mel Brooks what project made the most money for him throughout the years, it's been Spaceballs, of all the things he's done.
Uh-huh.
Of all the comedy classics he made more money on Spaceballs than anything else. That's why he keeps reviving it all the time. So we'll see. We'll see. I just saw him sing a song in an independent film called The Automat. He sings a song about the horn and heart out automats in a film that came out a couple of years ago, and he's a riot. He's hilarious. He's still funny. I just hope that he's not biting off more than he can chew. That's all. Because I love Mel Brooks. So anyway, Joe, thank you, my friend, for a wonderful hour. This is the Outdated Entertainment Hour. I might as well do my goodbyes here with you sitting here. Do you mind if I do them right now?
No, sir.
That way I don't have to re-edit this later.
Sure.
Our website, outdatedentertainmenthour.buzzsprout.com, where you can hear every one of our episodes. You can hear about music, old films, comedy, cartoons, B-movies. We've done so many different topics with so many wonderful guests. You're going to want to check that out. Write to us, outdatedent, that's outdatedent at gmail.com. Find me on Facebook. I'm the only Bob Smith singing with BB King. You can also find outdated_Bob at X, Blue Sky, Instagram, and Threads. And why I'm on Threads, I have no idea. I never look at it. I know I'm still there, so I pop an ad on every so often to see if anybody's still alive, But that's it for now. And my main jam is Facebook. If you ever want to write to me, feel free to do it there or at outdatedent@gmail.com. Joe Puccio, a wondrous time with you. We had a wonderful afternoon, as I always do. I thank you for being part of my shows, and hope your summer continues to go well, my friend.
Same to you. And again, I appreciate the invite to do the entertainment hour. This was a lot of fun. It's always great to look back at the artists, whatever the genre is that we grew up with, that we love, and this was a good one. Talking about the musicians that still got it. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Hey, keep on rocking, bro. Keep on rocking, Jack. So anyway, thank you all for listening to us, and We'll see you next time. We're out. I actually have a few shows coming up this time, so we'll be a little more frequent with the entertainment hour. And in the meantime, until you hear us again, as Ringo Starr, another old timer, would say, peace and love, brothers and sisters. Peace and love. Attention, Gen Xers. If you'd like to explore the era that appeals to you, look no further than GenerationXWire.com. The generation who grew up with elite in entertainment, music, movies, TV, books, pro wrestling, and more finally has a one-stop destination for all their Gen X needs. From Aerosmith to Batman to the Killer Bees to the Twilight Zone, there's something for everybody at GenerationXWire.com. You won't find a more eclectic mix of pop culture content than at the leading website that specializes in the greatest generation, GenerationXWire.com. Check it out today.